Welcome to week 4 of A Question of Faith. This series is a response really to a survey that we did through the summer months, an evangelism survey where we asked you some questions about what's helping you find and follow Jesus. And in kind of response to your response, we have this series, A Question of Faith, 8 things that you said would help you to engage with Jesus, to build community, enable some prayer, again, to find and follow Jesus. And so that's why we are halfway through. This marks the halfway point of this series. This is part 2 of a conversation that I had with Bernie and with Doug. We look at some different things this week. If you haven't seen part 1 of that conversation, please go and watch that. That's going to encourage you. That's going to help you. We want to, again, connect with these ideas and hear from some voices in our community. So I hope that they are speaking to you and you are connecting with them. Grab a notepad, grab a Bible. There are some things that you will want to make a note of and come back to in your own time as we hear again some brilliant stuff from people that are valuable to us. We're thinking about how we help people this week, and I think we have 2 great examples of that in Bernie and in Doug to share with us. And then when that conversation wraps up, I will reappear again and help us with the practical application of what we want to do about these things. So let's hear from Bernie and from Doug in our conversation that we had about how do we help people. Welcome to a new week of our series, A Question of Faith. This is week 4, and it's a continuation of the conversation that I have the privilege of having with Bernie from Peel Elim Community Church and Doug from Ramsey Elim Community Church. If you haven't seen the question that we looked at last week, make sure to do that. You can connect with that. It's in a playlist somewhere, so you can have a watch of that. But this week, we are going to talk about how do we help people. And again, I'm going to do my very best to behave and get out of the way and let you speak. We want to hear from both of you. I think you both got a really strong example in this and will have valuable things to say. So whoever wants to shout first, does it matter? What does it look like? My question that I promise I will stop saying one day. But how do we help people? What do you think?
I think from my experience anyway, which has been embedded in me from a young age, when as a kid, seeing my parents, my grandparents sort of reach out to other people, is I think the first thing, the one thing that I found so much easier, and when I come to applying, this helping other people, is seeing other people as literally just part of my extension of my family. Immediately that removes barriers of, oh, that person is there, they don't need me, or whatever. Right. I've come up with a culture where within a family, it doesn't matter who it is. If someone needs help, you reach out, whether it's an uncle, an auntie, a cousin, and whoever it might be, nephew, niece. You do. That's the culture I grew up in, and I think that has come with me up to now. So whenever I see someone who needs any help or someone shares that as a need, the first thing that I see is like, this could be my brother, this could be my sister. So I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to help you. No barriers, no questions asked. I'm just going to do it. So I think that really is important. I think when it comes to deciding what we do, let's not put barriers in place. Of course, there are times when that help needs to be appropriate to the need and the individual. Some ways that we can try and help people may not be right for them. In fact, they may be causing more of a problem. It's like, overfeeding my child because they say, I want sweets, and give them too sweet, and then only to destroy their teeth. Well, I'm not helping them. So I need to be careful in how I approach that, and different people might be treated differently.
Great, thank you, Bernie.
I think for me, a good thing to always sort of be aware of when thinking about helping people is the position that we're kind of coming from and the filter that we're seeing things from, because I think it can be a barrier a lot of the time when it comes to helping people, that our filter is always ourselves.
Right,
and it can
right.
always be like, you look at somebody that needs help and there's always that filter over it of your experiences and like, you know, whatever people group that person might be from, or, you know, what their job is, or, you know, a family that they're from, or, you know, there's potentially going to be things that are in the way of really being able to help people, because we're just selfish beings. And you know, we I think it's important to kind of zoom out and take filters off and come right back to, I always try to, when I pray, to ask God to help me see people how he sees them, without, well, this person this, or that person that, or they this, or, you know, because I think that is a good place to come from to help people,
right,
in a really like kind of authentic way. So that's one thought. Romans 12 is something that I like to come back to when it comes to thinking about helping people. So it says things like, you know, discover beauty in everyone. If you've got it in you, get along with everybody. Don't insist on getting even. That's not for you to do. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good. If you see your enemy go hungry, buy that person lunch, or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. You know, I quite often take myself back to this. Love from the center of who you are. Don't fake it. Be good friends who love deeply. It talks about crying together and laughing together. And I think that always kind of humbles me. And
yeah, man, that's legit.
It puts me in a position where, I don't know, you know, things happen to you, and it can just build up, you know, cynicism and resentment and bitterness and all of these things every time something happens to you that is out of your control, and you can end up taking it out on other people, and that just kind of brings me right back to like, all of that stuff is irrelevant, you know, we're just co-humans.
right.
And everyone has stuff, don't they? So it just puts everyone on a level playing field, and then helping people doesn't seem as much like, you know, I'm the helper and you're the helpee, and you know, it's kind of like we're all helping each other kind of thing. Maybe I'm a bit of a hippie, I don't know.
I want to think about a few things. There's a lot running through my mind from what you have both said. I like, Doug, we have spoken to the idea of example, and so having people in your life who are going to role model that for you, and they're going to set in those formative times and spaces, they're going to set that example of, well, of course we help people, you know, like that's just what we do. And I'm interested in the dynamics of, I think you said something that's really helpful about the help being appropriate, and about it being healthy, and about it being the right type of help. So I just wonder if you can speak to that for us, and just outside of the things that I hope we intuit naturally. So if you're not a medical doctor, don't give people medical advice, you know, like those things that we hope we will all behave ourselves and do. But I wonder, in some of those blurred spaces, especially living in community, so in close contact with people, and so the message comes through, the can you just message comes through, or the I need the X, Y, or Z message. I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit, the right type of help, appropriate help. How do we do that well?
I think that, you know, and I'll give an example of maybe something that, you know, may not be appropriate. And this goes back to me moving into London in my first few months, having come from a little village and moved into this big city, and on my own, going around going, oh my word, I hadn't experienced these, you know, individuals who are homeless, for example. Right. And so when I was in London walking around, and then I see someone sitting there say, you know, do you have anything? I don't have any food. And I remember, maybe I was just completely unaware. I didn't have any money really to spare, but I had some fruits with me, and gave this guy an apple. Went to give him an apple. He looked at it, and then he looked at me, and then he looked at it and say, "Sorry, but no. Do you have money?" And at this point, I sat there going, "Oh, he said to me, I don't have any food." And this is the only thing I've got. Now, of course, I'm not very experienced in this. I don't know this city and everything. And I remember that moment sitting there going, oh, right. I had no idea that some people, when they want the money, is actually being used for wrong reasons, for wrong things that shouldn't be appropriate. So the word sort of, when someone has an addiction, for example, it is important then that we understand, and we'll know that more the more we get to know individuals or people, or maybe families or something. We'll know some of those things that are not appropriate. So I'm not going to buy you a bottle of wine when I know that wine is an issue. Consuming alcohol is an issue for you. And so is the more that I get to know people, spend a bit more time with people, I get to understand what is maybe more appropriate. And this comes back to, I guess, loving and sharing, as Bernie said earlier on. What I have is not necessarily mine. It's just I happen to have a bit more here. If I share with you, it's going to help you better. But I need to absolutely get a bit of an understanding. It's an opportunity to get to know this person, this family a bit more before I can open up maybe and share what may be the most appropriate thing, that the greatest need they have, and speak into that if I have means to be able to do that. But an addiction of some sort, whether it's financial, alcoholic, whatever it might be, we all have certain things, certain weaknesses in our life. So me coming in and fueling that is just inappropriate. So I think we need to be careful when it comes to that, to understand, get to know people as much as we can. It doesn't mean that when I see someone on the street for the first time, I'm not going to be able to, but maybe having a conversation with that individual will give me a bit more for me to be able to assist them maybe in the most appropriate way.
Cool. Thank you. Bernie?
I think there's not much I can add to what you're saying, Doug. That was kind of covered all of the inappropriate things. I think something that's just come to my mind is when people make people feel like they're being like a project, or like a rather than it being like you're kind of coming alongside someone, you have a relationship with them, rather than it just being like, oh, how can I help you? But it actually is just about making me feel better, about doing a good thing. Instead of, I find that inappropriate, because
so let's pick up that thread, because I'm interested in this idea of why, as followers of Jesus, we are convicted with helping people. Is it an offset thing? So am I offsetting my own bad behavior in the sight of God and my community by helping other people? Is it a guilt thing? Is it I expect my reward in heaven to be more significant than others? Is there, so like you're saying, is there a selfish element twist to it? Is it a judgmental thing? Is it a gossipy thing? Is it a where and what is the motivation for followers of Jesus to help people, in your opinion?
I think it can be any and all of the above. It's going to be different for everyone, isn't it? But I think.
So what do you feel it should be?
Well, I think generally it should be, and I hope it probably is in most cases, that people are looking at Jesus as the example and trying to be like that. He is the best example of like coming alongside people. He wasn't that making people projects thing. He was like eating with people, and he was washing people's feet. He was I like to think that that's most people's motivation, to be like more like Jesus.
Doug?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think it comes back again to I get it, John 3:16 or whatever, but God loving us and us being able to share that love. What I have, I consider that a blessing, that I also need to be able to share and bless someone else with what I've got, with this material, time, money, whatever it might be. And I think that it's important to know that we are in this together. We are all together in this world, and therefore we have a responsibility to take care of each other. And because, and I don't do it because tomorrow maybe I'll need the help, but if I have a little bit more today, I'll share. And if it's a two-way thing, tomorrow someone else will do something else, someone else, and it's an ongoing thing. And I think that if we take it like that, and knowing that God loves us unconditionally, he's Jesus died on a cross for us unconditionally, for all of us, without selecting any individuals or whatever group of people. And I think that in the same way, if we are about love, we've been loved and we've gone about it, then we should also be loving, sharing that love with others through giving and the sharing. And if it's a meal at the table, hey, you know what, come in, let's eat this together. And there should be no conditions, no strings attached at all. But again, come back to Bernie's point, it is all, again, we're going back to Christ and his example and replicating that without, I guess, the point that's important, without seeing it as an expectation. You must do this. It should be I want to do this. I want to do this.
I think you are both, like I said at the beginning, I think you're both good examples of this. I also think you are good, kind people, and I think that you set good examples for us in that. And I think what maybe more naturally comes to you both in helping people is maybe not as naturally a lean or an inclination for others. And so I guess I want to speak a little bit to another element of that dynamic that I think about when we help people, in terms of when we take our discipleship seriously. So when we engage with following Jesus and following the way, and I think about Isaiah chapter 1, not as a proof text, but a principle text of learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. So if we take the things from our faith inheritance seriously, there is a call and a commission on us to be about these things. They're not optional extras. They're not, and I totally hear, and I'm not disagreeing with you, what you're saying about I give out of my awareness of where I have extra, or I have more than I need, or I have, and I totally am with you on that. But I think it's important for us to know that as followers of Jesus, in that collective identity as the body of Christ, it's in our DNA, it's in who we are to do these things. They're not like add-ons or separate issues or things that, oh, that'd be nice, or when I've got a bit more time, or I've got a bit more money, or I've got a bit more, whatever it might be. Like this is, if we take Jesus, if we take God, if we take the Spirit of God at God's word, these are the things that we are moving towards, because that's who we are, and so I think you both do a great job and give us great example in our communities of how do we help people, and the generosity. But and I think for those who feel less like naturally inclined to, maybe you're not a people person, maybe you're just not wired to see those things, your brain just doesn't think like that. It's not better or worse, but I think to give us the confidence of, it's not the limits of a personality type, it's in our nature, like it's in our DNA, it's in as God has called and commanded and breathed us to be, that's what we are on the face of the earth to do, which is a different conversation for a different day, but that's kind of what it helps me think of. So as ever and always, the alien has landed. and the alien wants to know what are your top tips practically now. So again, we can be guilty of this. We live in this land of ideas. So let's attach them to some practical reality. And we want to do something about this idea of who I am. I exist to help other people in part. So your top tips for this alien that has arrived, what are you giving as a guiding light, a top 3, a top 5, whatever you want to do? What are your practical top tips to how do we help people?
I think mine would, I mean, you've put us on the spot, so, you know, if I'd had time to think about it, maybe I'd have said something different, but
I didn't
off
want
the top
that.
of my head.
That's what I wanted.
I think it would be the golden rule. This is what we tell the kids.
Great.
Treat people, you know, as you want to be treated. I think that's a pretty good place to start with, being, you know, helping people. So yeah.
Great.
That would be
great. Awesome. Doug?
Make time for people.
Great.
Whatever it is, by making time for whoever it might be, that is when you'll get to understand. And I've had examples when someone's just turned up and they're like, you know, I saw you doing this and I have this thing. Do you mind? And even in work, and that's when we're so zoned in what we're doing, just allow a bit of room, let that door be slightly open for someone to be able to walk in. Even if someone's going to interrupt you for a minute or 2 minutes, I can guarantee the response you give is going to make a massive difference in their life. So make a little bit of time. Don't be afraid to try whatever you've got. You know, it will go a long way. Don't try to measure what you give in your own terms. Think of what you're helping as the recipient who's going to be benefiting it. And for them, this might be the biggest thing in the world ever. So don't be afraid and make time to absolutely listen and reach out to other people, wherever you might be.
Great. Yeah. Great. Thank you. I think we've had on that little adventure, and time has escaped us again. But on that little adventure, we've again been conscious of we need to be really deliberate about these things. The choices that we have to make, they are the accumulation of, you know, 1,000 little decisions every day that line up to not just the things that we say we would like to be about, but that is how we are about the things that we believe are true. And it's those 1,000 little decisions every day. I think of Dorcas in Acts chapter 9. Who was known for her good works and being full of charity. We thought about Isaiah chapter 1, we thought about Romans 12. So there's plenty that we can start to patchwork into that to understand some of what helps us with that. Is there anything, just before you both go, and thank you again for your time, is there anything that you are absolutely burning up to talk about? How do we help people that if I don't let you say it, you're going to be cross forever?
I think I just gotta throw in one thing. I think we touched on it already, but please make this a time when you start looking at other people maybe in a different way. If you have an issue or you struggle, take time to understand others. And I think the more you do that, you realize that actually they're just like you and I, and they'll just connect with you. It's like reading a book. You know, sometimes the covers don't do justice, but take a moment to open. And the moment you do that, you realize that actually they're not strangers. So you can connect with them and then you'll be able to reach out and assist in some way or another.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. I will have some other people with me next week. We will get into some other conversations. Remember, we are thinking about these questions, these 8 questions, because they are questions from you. They are responses from our summer survey, and we're thinking about how do we form community? How do we do that? How do we find and follow Jesus in that space as we build together? And we're thinking about the Great Commission. And if you've no idea what that means, go and give Matthew 28 a read, get into that. That's kind of what's inspiring these questions, these conversations that we are. The format maybe looks and feels a little different to perhaps what you have been used to, but they are very deliberately centered in and around these ideas of how do we make disciples, how do we include people, invite people to Jesus and bless people. So connect with that. Again, Doug, Bernie, thank you so much. Really appreciate you both. Thank you for being an example in our communities of how we help people. It's been helpful to me today in this conversation. I'm confident it'll be helpful to other people. So be brilliant, go well, and we will see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
This week for our practical application, I want it to be exactly that, really practical. And I think we understand the nature of, we say the fourth part of our vision and mission statement is to bless people. And it's really important, and we arrive at that statement, I arrived at that statement with the caveat that it's unconditional. We bless people unconditionally. We don't bless people so that they will join our club. We don't bless people so that they will think better of us. We don't bless people to soften them up to then invite them to something later on. We bless people because we have the ability to do that. And so how do we help people? That involves many things in many ways, but I think often within the confines of the spaces that we share with people, so our neighbors, our colleagues, our family, our friends, and I don't maybe know the specifics of the details of those people for you in those spaces, but I feel it's fair to get to a place where you're busy and you've got a lot on and life is coming at you fast, and we are compensating and catching up for 18 months of deferred plans and delayed ideas, and some things have been put on hold and situations and circumstances have changed, but there are some things that remain the same, and part of that is connecting with people, and that will either make you groan or that will not even be a second thought to you. That will either be something that you think, oh gosh, what's he gonna ask us to do now? What's he going to try and make us to do now? Or you are already 4 or 5 steps ahead in this process. And I want to release that pressure. We want to encourage each other to bless people, because that's the nature of who Jesus is. And we want to reflect his nature, his character, in and through the way that we do the things that we do. So this is not a backhanded way to get people to like us or to join our club or to think the way that we think. This is an extension of who we are. And so as Jesus has renewed us and redeemed us and given us the ability to live differently, we are not limited to behaviors, patterns, thoughts, ideas that keep us trapped in kind of some of those thoughts that maybe make us nervous about reaching out to other people. Where am I going with this? What am I asking us to do? I want us this week to really consciously, deliberately think about people that we are surrounded by. Often we say neighbor, and we use that as a term to mean people. And we understand Jesus gives us parables, stories, examples of application of neighbor meaning people generally. And so let's take that idea and put some flesh and bones on it, and find out who your neighbors are and take something to them this week. And you can take a pint of milk, you can take a loaf of bread, you can take a card, you can take a gift, you can take whatever it might be, but create that connection through blessing somebody with something this week. And that doesn't have to lead to an intense exchange of ideas, that doesn't necessarily have to develop to anything else, but there's something in us that needs to respond to the people around us. And so we want to do that practically. We want to meet needs, we want to help people, and that starts with connection, and we need to be deliberate about creating those connections. So take a pint of milk, take a loaf of bread, and initiate that contact with your neighbor, with somebody, with somewhere, with something, and make it deliberate and make it personal. Donations to charities and causes and food banks and ideas are brilliant and are absolutely a part of that identity and that necessity to eradicate need and to kind of move those things along. But this isn't what we're asking. What we're asking this week is for you to very deliberately connect with somebody over something that you are blessing them with in the ordinary everydayness of it. We all understand the usefulness of a pint of milk or a loaf of bread or a card of encouragement, or just something to say, hey, I'm here, I'm thinking of you, I hope that you are doing well. So that's our call to action this week. Go and be involved in connecting with your neighbor. Take a pint of milk, take a loaf of bread, do something to enable that connection through the motive of just blessing somebody, and how we help people develop those connections and look out for the people that we're surrounded by. Get out of that rhythm of just being distracted with ourselves and choose to disrupt and disturb ourselves for the sake of others. That is what Jesus is creating in us and what we are calling others to do as well. That's too much from me, so I need to go. Be brilliant. Have a great week. We'll be back with some new conversations next week. Again, I'm really excited for you to connect with. Be brilliant. Go well, and we'll see you soon.